welcome back to Room 237, and I have yet another Italian, technically I guess it's a horror film, but this is one that I was saving for when I was getting to the very end of this Italian marathon or this Italian cycle. Like when I got to the end of my Giallo wish list, or at least the wish list for this cycle. I got a huge Giallo wish list, but I'll save some for another time. But yeah, this Blu-ray I was saving for when I got down to the end, and it's not a Giallo, although I know there's gonna be some people here on YouTube that I know of that when they review it they'll call it a Giallo. I'm sure they will, but it is a film by my favorite Italian director, Sergio Martino. In it is his 1989 film, American Rickshaw. This is the Blu-ray from Cauldron, which they have some good releases. I have another one, a Neo Giallo tribute called Abracadabra that I'll be getting to. Crimes of the Black Cat. When I did that, that's the Cauldron release. This is a movie that's actually been picking up in popularity the last few years, and yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's because it has Donald Pleasance. Maybe it's because Red Letter Media featured it on an episode of Best of the Worst. Maybe it's because there's a Blu-ray out and, you know, people want to check out these Italian films. Every great filmmaker has at least one dud. This has got to be Sergio Martino's dud. I mean, I've already reviewed, I think, 6 films by him. All Gialli. This is the only non-Giallo film of his that I reviewed. I have Slave of the Cannibal God, aka Mountain of the Cannibal God, but it's a very crappy DVD that is severely cut and edited. So I didn't even bother watching it. I'll wait till I get, you know, the better uncut Blu-ray. But so for now, this is the only non-Giallo movie I have by Martino. It's not that this movie was hard to get through. It's just it's a laughable fucking movie. It really is. It stars Olympic athlete Mitch Gaylord, also Daniel Green, who was in Hands of Steel, which I believe was... I always get them mixed up. Hands of Steel might actually be an Alberto Lenzi film. It's either Lenzi or Martino. It's not a horror film, but Victoria Prouty and Donald Pleasance. Donald Pleasance is in a very small role. And, I mean, it was written by Martino, Roberto Leone, and Soro Scavallini, who's the brother of Romano Scavallini. And this Scavallini helped write some of Martino's best films, like Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only I Had the Key, All Colors of the Dark, Case of the Scorpion's Tail. Examples of some of the best gialli that the genre has to offer. And then you got this. Like, yes, technically it's a horror film, but the whole vibe and the whole tone, it reminded me of Joe D'Amato's Deep Blood. I mean, it takes place in Miami. It's a very sunny, brightly lit movie. It's a very silly, cheesy movie. I mean, I know Italian horror was not in a very good place in the late 80s, save for Argento. I mean, Opera in 87 is still awesome. But, I mean, you look at some Lucio Fulci films of the late 80s, yeah. Italian horror was not doing very well, and this is a prime example. I mean, the acting is really laughable. Donald Pleasance even does some things that are really silly. He Pleasance is a class act. He's still giving it his all, but there's something towards the end that, if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. That is just hilarious. There's not even much about this movie online, but okay, Hands of Steel was Martino. I just want to say that before people comment it. So yeah, but so it takes place in Coconut Grove, Florida, and one thing I did notice about this was in all the other reviews I've done for Martino films, one of the things I praise is the attention to detail plot-wise. There's little details and things that happen that really help drive the plot forward or help things make sense later on. There is some of that in here, but this is a movie that has so much plot and so many things happening that you could have easily cut out half the plot points in this, and it still would have been fairly cohesive. It's basically, there's this rickshaw guy, which apparently in Florida, there's American rickshaws, which is kind of like a taxi, where you have these buff beach guys that will take you anywhere locally in a rickshaw. This one guy, Daniel, he breaks his leg, and he tells his buddy Scott, Mitch Gaylord, I need you to cover me. And I don't think he works there. I think he's just filling in. I guess it's one of those places. And he breaks his leg because he tried to get away from a cobra. But actually, it opens up with... I will say the opening is well shot. It's slow motion. It's in the rain. It looks decent. Still sunny, but pouring rain. Of Mitch Gaylord, who plays Scott, giving a rickshaw ride to this elderly Chinese woman. And then sometime later, he gets some Chinese talisman in the mail with a letter that he drops and loses and doesn't care to find it until it shows up later. Actually, I think he's distracted that he drops it. And that's when Daniel tells him, hey, I need you to cover me at the rickshaw place. The acting from some of these characters, which these rickshaw drivers, they're acting like prostitutes. They're always like, they're like, hey, honey, can I give you a ride? Hey, guy, can I give you a ride somewhere downtown? Come on, you want a ride. And the one that has the most lines is this one over-the-top, flamboyantly gay guy, who his acting is literally like, hey, Scott, someone was here looking for you. I don't know who he was. He was weird. That's his acting. But he gives this one woman a ride, Victoria Prouty, down to her yacht. And, apparently it's very easy for them to get laid. She just kind of gives him a look. He follows her inside. They start to have sex. He hears a noise, finds out there's a guy with no thumb on one hand with a camera filming them. He punches her, beats the hell out of him, grabs his tape. But the guy switched it on him. And actually, let me back up. They also show Donald Pleasance as this televangelist, and mentions that he has a son. Also, Scott was born 6/6 of 1966, so June 6th, which apparently in the Chinese horoscope is the year of the tiger, so it gives him all these powers that he doesn't know of. That's made a point when he drops off the elderly Chinese lady. And this, most of the plot you find out at the end, it is kind of a build-up. And you're kind of, it's one of those, how is, like, where's this movie going? How is this going to play out kind of things? Because actually the opening shot is this sort of boar statue that's, we see is locked in something, like a safety deposit box, and it glows green. And then that's when Scott gives her the ride and everything. But, so, Scott gets home, and he puts the tape in, and it's this, there's no audio, it's all scratched, of the guy with no thumb. He's got a key around his neck, which during the fight, Scott grabs it off of him and throws it out the window into the water for no reason, except for we need him to get it later. And so then his friend puts it in the oven to get rid of the evidence. And then that tape has nothing to do with anything later on, except for when Hands of Steel, the typical big, imposing, all black, leather, tough guy that roughs people up for information. You can tell he's working for someone else. He's looking for the key. Which really doesn't make any sense because it's difficult to talk about because to make sense of it, you have to explain everything that happened or that's explained later on. But when Scott goes back to get the correct tape, he finds that thumbless guy is dead and the yacht starts fire, which I think it's his blood, because when he flees the yacht the first time, he's not wearing shoes and he steps on broken glass, and so his blood is all over the boat. His prints are, he's worried about that, even though the yacht goes up in flames. I'm guessing because of his blood, but also we see the Chinese lady. We get she's some sort of witch or psychic, but she's kind of, kind of screaming, going like this with smoke coming off of her. She's starting the fire with her mind somewhere else. Cops show up. He dives off. It kind of reminded me of The Hitcher as well. Like, if you take The Hitcher, but give it this really silly, light tone, like Deep Blood, because the rest of the movie is him trying to clear his name. And in some scenes, he kind of looks like C. Thomas Howell, almost. Yeah, people suspect he's the guy that killed the thumbless guy on the yacht, which we find out is Donald Pleasance's son. And yeah, Hands of Steel is looking for the key. He gets the redheaded girl that brought Scott to the yacht to go to the police and say, I saw him kill Donald Pleasance's son. So then they're all looking for him. This movie's so convoluted. I mean, I guess I'll say spoilers because this movie is picking up in popularity, and I know a lot of people who are getting into Italian films are, really like to talk about this one, or it's one they mentioned that they want to see. So I guess I'll say spoilers, but I mean, as the film goes on, you get where it's going. You get, okay, this guy wants the key. It is said it goes to a safety deposit box, or you could put it together. And you get that, okay, the old Chinese lady good and evil, and then the boar statue has something to do with it, or that's what they're both after. It's just everything that they explain of how to get there, and just a lot of plot points that don't really need to happen. And it's a silly as fuck movie. Some parts are over the top, like when he asks the redhead to help him, which she's an exotic dancer. She gets in her car and he's hiding in the back seat and he's like, don't say anything, just drive, or else I'll stick you with this. It's a needle. In 1989, he says, I found it in the gutter. I'm sure you're familiar with AIDS. Then, she acts like, I had nothing to say to you, you killer. They end up having sex in the hotel they stop at anyway. And she makes a comment like, don't try anything, or else I'll get you arrested for rape. Even though that's her invitation into the shower. Which, if you look, I think his pants are already wet, which means they already shot the scene once. And I mean, for a guy like Martino, where you go to watch a movie like Mrs. Ward or Vice is a Locked Room, All Colors of the Dark, there are so many details, small ones, that help the plot, that just really help not just have everything make sense, but are also just neat little details that you might not think about. Here, it's almost like it feels like he just completely dropped the ball. But okay, spoilers. So every time Hands of Steel seems to get really close to Scott or whatever, fire's able to appear. Like, he goes to Scott and Daniel's apartment. He kills Daniel. Daniel tells him, what he made sense of the tape and where it was. But when he's actually scared and crying and confessing, that's probably the most decent acting in the entire film. It's not great, but... And so after he tells him, Hands of Steel puts the tape Scott wanted in the oven as well, and then they're both gone forever. They serve no purpose to the plot anymore. And then he shoots Daniel, and as he's pulling the body around, Chinese lady's able to set fire to the apartment as well with her mind. Also, there's a cobra. And trying to remember. I mean, I just watched this, I think, yesterday. But, also, Donald Pleasance's son was also born June 6th of 66. Madame Luna. Okay, that's her name. Okay. Eventually, so yeah, Hands of Steel is working for Donald Pleasance because eventually he does get the key. Because it gets back to Scott that he's looking for the key. He remembers he threw it out the window, so he dives down to get it. And they're able to meet up. He tries to fight Hands of Steel, which the first time they fight, which is after, I'm sure you're familiar with AIDS, he tells her to go into this parking garage and switch cars. That's when Hands of Steel comes out, and when they fight, she doesn't get back in her own car. She gets in a stranger's car and tries getting away in that one, which he gets back in the car with her. And that's when he finds out he's looking for a key. Second time, because I think he has her family, like her friend and her son. But Hands of Steel is able to get the key away from him. And then we see he's working for Donald Pleasance. And he says, I'm going to go pick up the boar statue. So Donald Pleasance's son stole the boar statue and locked it away in a safety deposit box at a train station. And then we find out because Scott sees the note at his, I think it's his apartment building, say, I'm the woman you helped 6 months ago, whatever, and realize the talisman. He's able to find her apartment, and she says that she's this immortal, and she had a thing with Donald Pleasance, which we see Donald Pleasance with a wig to make him look younger and face paint. Donald Pleasance looks ridiculous. He does. I mean, God bless the guy for still having the class to give it his all, but it looks silly. And yeah, it was more of a joy to see him in this than Halloween 5, which came out the same year, which is one of the worst renditions or versions of Dr. Loomis, next to Malcolm McDowell in Halloween 2, but... So, and yeah, when he stole the boar statue to gain power and use that for his success, and when he stole it, she aged tremendously, and so she's been guiding him. You find out she's been pulling the strings the entire time. Like, remember earlier when I said his friend Daniel broke his leg trying to get away from a cobra? That's why he needed Scott to cover for him at the Rickshaw place. That was her doing. Which really makes you think, how could she not get the key or the statue back herself? She also has a Siamese cat that Scott keeps seeing all over town by itself. And she has all these powers, but she can't manage to... Like, when Hands of Steel goes to get it out of the safety deposit box, she's able to use her mental powers to make the key melt through his hand and then melt through the tile on the floor. But she can't get through a safety deposit box. And then Scott's able to get the boar statue, and Hands of Steel is chasing him, and he's hit by a truck. He's Chainsaw Massacre hitchhikered from with the truck. And then the silliest thing, I don't even remember what makes this happen, but I'm guessing it's when Scott gives Madame Luna the statue back. Donald Pleasance is given this televised speech or whatever, and out of nowhere he just starts, like, mid-sentence, just making these boar sounds. And the first time he's like, oh, sounds like I got to buy groceries. I've heard people say that he was, like, drunk the whole time they made this. I don't know. And then eventually he's like, something's wrong with this microphone. And then he goes up to his wife to say something, like, tell them it's whatever. She's like, no, I will never be under your control again. Then she shoots him in front of everyone. And then, you know, Scott and Redhead, they go to see Madame Luna. Her apartment's all cleared out. I do like the interior design of Madame Luna's apartment. It's got really nice colors and really like the way it's lit and like the reflective surfaces. It's a very aesthetically pleasing look. Especially when, like, the whole movie takes place just in the bright Florida sun. There's not much to look at, so you get a very interesting set design in her apartment. And it ends with Scott picking up her cat and I think walking away with it. But I'm sure I left out a lot of details, but this movie is so fucking silly. it's definitely my least favorite Sergio Martino film. I'm sure on a technical level, only mentioning this because of Donald Pleasance, Halloween 4 and 5 might be better made. But this does have some so bad it's good value. I mean, some of the acting. Oh, also, after Donald Pleasance's wife shoots him, this boar starts breaking out of his skin. Like, the face breaks out of his face, the hooves come out of his hands and arms. And yeah, it kind of reminds me of, like, sort of like the skin splitting. It kind of, the effects look similar like on Creepshow when the roaches are coming out of the guy's chest. You know, pretty gnarly looking, cheap, but you know, at least there's some cool effect at the end. But yeah, seeing Donald Pleasance just go is pretty funny. But yeah, I really, it's not a bad film to laugh at. Yes, it's a silly, cheesy, so bad it's good movie, but you know, when I think of Sergio Martino, I think, you know, his two Vice films, All Colors of the Dark. And I think those are some of the best giallo films the genre has to offer. Yeah, I put this in the same kind of category as like Deep Blood by Joe D'Amato. I'm sure there's other details I left out of the plot or certain details that, but it is kind of funny that Donald Pleasance stole the statue from Madame Luna, but then his son stole it and he had to get it back from his own son, where it was just in a safety deposit box. And it's just this huge, like, burn after reading mess of a plot. I don't know. There's some merit. I mean, it's not a completely crappy movie. I mean, totally, like, garbage movie. There's some value. This is still a rant. But, yeah, definitely my least favorite Sergio Martino film. Definitely just so bad it's, I wouldn't say good, but it's at the very least entertaining enough to watch it. I'll say that. But yeah, that's American Rickshaw. So got a few more Jolly to get to. Still got the Argento films. I am starting to get the Giallo tribute homage films like Abracadabra, which I would not say is an official proper Giallo, because it is purposely meant to emulate the 70s. I have a lot to say about this film. This is one I was surprised by. But, so yeah, still, I'm trying to get all the Italian stuff done by December so I can do Ho Ho Horror 2021. I missed out on Halloween, but, so yeah, American Rickshaw, I guess check it out. I guess I can see why people are seeking it out and why it's gaining traction, but wasn't quite for me. But anyway, thank you for watching.